You know what I hear more than anything else when someone sits down with me to talk about retirement? I just don't know if I have enough. And what kills me about that is half the time they actually do. But because nobody ever showed them how to look at the right numbers, they've been stressing about this for years. Working extra years they didn't need to work, skipping trips they could have taken, putting off a life they were already ready to live. So today I want to walk you through five numbers. Five specific numbers that, when you sit down and calculate them for your own situation, will tell you exactly where you stand. I'm Melanie Kent. I specialize in Social Security planning, and this is what we do here. If you're new, welcome. Let's get into it. The first number is one most people have never actually written down, and it's the one everything else builds on. What money shows up in your account every single month, no matter what? Not what you hope will be there, not what depends on a good year in the market. The money that arrives whether you lift a finger or not. Social Security, a pension if you have one, rental income, an annuity payment. Whatever belongs in that category for you, add it up and write it down. That number is your income floor. And honestly, it's more important than your 401k balance, more important than your net worth. Here's why. When the market dropped 38% in 2008, the people who had a solid income floor didn't have to do anything. They could sit on their hands while the market recovered because their basic expenses were already covered. The people who had everything riding on their portfolio didn't have that option. They were forced to sell while prices were down, and some of them never fully recovered from those early losses. That's the protection a strong income floor gives you. The bigger it is, the less pressure everything else is under. For most people watching this, Social Security is going to be the biggest piece of that floor. And how much you get from Social Security depends almost entirely on one decision. Which brings us to the second number. And this one surprises almost everyone who actually looks at it. Your Social Security benefit isn't one number, it's three. And the gap between them is larger than most people realize. Here's what the Social Security Administration has confirmed. If you were born in 1960 or later, which covers the majority of people in their 50s and early 60s right now, your full retirement age is 67. File at 62 instead, and your benefit gets cut by 30%. And that reduction is permanent. That lower amount becomes your monthly baseline for the rest of your life. Wait until 70, and you receive 124% of your full benefit. Every year you hold off past 67 adds 8%, guaranteed, inflation adjusted, for life. In real dollar terms right now, the average Social Security check as of early 2026 is about $2,079 a month. But that average is being dragged down by everyone who filed early. Someone who waited to 70 with a solid earnings history could be looking at more than double that. And if you're married, this decision reaches further than just your own check. Your benefit becomes the survivor benefit after one of you passes away. Your spouse receives whichever of your two benefits is higher. So the higher earner delaying to 70 isn't just about getting more money now. It's about what your spouse lives on, potentially for decades after you're gone. That piece of the picture gets left out of the conversation constantly. So here's what I want you to actually do after this video. Go to SSA.gov and create a My Social Security account if you haven't already. It's free, it takes about 10 minutes, and you'll see your projected benefit at 62, 67, and 70 based on your real earnings record. Write all three numbers down. You'll need them for the next piece. Quick question while we're here. Drop it in the comments. Have you actually done this? Logged into SSA.gov and looked at your real projected numbers? I ask because you'd be surprised how many people haven't, and how different the number looks from what they were expecting. Now, knowing those three Social Security numbers leads straight to the third thing you need to calculate, your break-even age. The math behind this isn't complicated. If you file early, you get smaller checks for a longer time. If you wait, you get bigger checks starting later. At some point, the total dollars received from waiting catches up to the total from filing early. That crossover is your break even. Based on research from AARP and multiple financial planning sources working from the SSA's own benefit structure, here's where those crossover points land. If you compare filing at 62 versus 67, break even falls around age 78 and a half. If you're comparing 67 to 70, it's somewhere around 82 or 83. Going all the way from 62 to 70, the crossover is around 80 to 81. So the question underneath all of this is, how long do you expect to live? And I know that's not a comfortable thing to think about. But before you decide the answer is probably not that long, look at what the SSA's own actuarial data says. More than 1 in 3 65-year-olds alive today will live to 90. A 65-year-old woman has a better than 50% chance of making it past 87. For married couples, there's a 50% chance that at least one spouse reaches 92. So when someone tells me they're filing at 62 because they don't expect to live long, I always want them to sit with those numbers first. That said, there are absolutely real and legitimate reasons to file early. Serious health issues, financial need, a spouse dealing with a terminal illness. This isn't me telling everyone to wait. It's me saying, know your break even before you decide. So the decision is based on actual math instead of a feeling. If this kind of breakdown is useful to you, go ahead and subscribe. We do this every single day, and I want you to have the right information before you need it. The fourth number is one that almost everyone gets wrong. Not because they're careless, because the way we think about spending doesn't match how spending actually happens. When people estimate what they'll spend in retirement, they think in monthly buckets: mortgage or rent, groceries, utilities, car payment. They round up a little to be safe and land somewhere around $4,000 or $4,500 a month, and they feel like they've been thorough. What that number almost never includes is everything that doesn't show up like clockwork: the car repair in March, the 4 flights to visit family throughout the year, the new water heater in October, a grandkid's birthday, a friend's wedding, a medical bill insurance only partially covered. None of those feel like regular expenses, so they never make it into the estimate. But they happen every year, all of them. And when you average them out across 12 months, they can add $800, $1,000, even $1,500 to what you thought you were spending. The only way to find your real number is to go back through your actual bank and credit card statements for the last 24 months and add it up. Not estimate, add up. I've had people come in completely confident they were spending $4,200 a month, and their real 24-month average came out to $5,600. That's not a rounding error. That's a retirement plan built on the wrong foundation. Do this exercise before anything else. It's uncomfortable, but it's the most clarifying thing you can do. The fifth number is the one that catches people off guard more than any other on this list. Fidelity Investments has been publishing their annual retiree healthcare cost estimate for over 20 years. Their 2025 figure? A single 65-year-old retiring today should budget an average of $172,500 for healthcare costs throughout retirement. For a couple, that's $345,000. That's with Medicare coverage. Dental, vision, hearing, and long-term care are not included in those numbers. Here's what makes that figure even more striking. Fidelity's research also found that the average American expects to spend about $75,000 on healthcare in retirement. So there's nearly a $100,000 gap per person between what people plan for and what they'll actually face. Spread $172,500 over a 20-year retirement, and you're looking at roughly $720 a month, just for healthcare, on top of everything else. And healthcare costs have been rising at around 5 to 6% a year historically, well above general inflation. So that number keeps climbing. This isn't meant to alarm you. It's meant to make sure this cost is actually inside your plan instead of missing from it entirely. Now let me show you how all 5 of these work together, because this is where it gets real. Meet Mark. He's 61, in decent health, no pension. Social Security will be his only guaranteed income. He figures he's spending about $3,800 a month, and he's been telling himself he'll retire in a couple years, for about 3 years running. He logs into SSA.gov. At 62, he'd get $1,740 a month. At 67, $2,490. At 70, $3,090. He pulls 24 months of bank statements. His real monthly average comes out to $4,550. He adds healthcare at $720 a month. His actual monthly need is $5,270. Now the math. If Mark retires and files at 62, his income floor is $1,740. The gap he has to cover from savings every month is $3,530. Using a standard 4% withdrawal rate, sustaining that gap requires roughly $1,060,000 saved. Mark has $480,000. If he waits until 67, the gap shrinks to $2,780 a month, which needs about $835,000. Still beyond where he is, but significantly closer. But here's where the picture opens up. If Mark works 2 more years, keeps contributing to his 401k, then retires at 63 and delays Social Security until 67, he draws modestly from savings for 4 years, Social Security kicks in at the higher amount, and suddenly his portfolio isn't under nearly the same pressure. That gap becomes something his savings can actually handle. This is what people call a bridge strategy. You retire before you file. You pull from savings to cover the gap during those in-between years. Then the higher guaranteed income kicks in and takes over a much bigger share of your monthly expenses. The portfolio breathes. Mark's situation isn't perfect, but he can see it now. He knows what he needs, what he has, and what options he actually has available. That's what these 5 numbers give you. Not a perfect plan, but a clear one. What surprised you most going through this? The healthcare number? The break-even math? Or was it your real expense number when you actually sat down with your statements? Tell me in the comments. I read them, and they genuinely shape what comes next. Retirement stops feeling impossible the moment you stop measuring yourself against a vague, giant savings number and start measuring yourself against your own actual life. Your income, your expenses, your gap. That's the whole problem condensed into something you can actually work with. Go to SSA.gov this week. Pull your bank statements. Run the gap calculation. Because knowing where you actually stand, even when the answer isn't perfect, is worth more than any amount of comfortable uncertainty. Tomorrow, we're looking at the 4% rule, one of the most repeated pieces of retirement advice out there, and one of the most misunderstood. Where it came from, what it was actually designed to do, and why applying it blindly can leave your plan on much shakier ground than you realize. See you then.